As a part of part 4, I'm going to reiterate what we're talking about. And that is, we looked in the first 2 videos of this set, 1 and 2, at the fact of what is God's will and character. God's will has been, how do we say, negated to some degree. God, at this point in history, can't have his perfect will, but he will have his perfect will, and that is that there will be a kingdom in which dwelleth only righteousness and love and peace and joy. But for right now, we are in the midst of a trial period, a probation, if you will. And during this time, Satan has set upon destroying God's creation, especially man. And he does that in many different ways. Now, we talked about Adam and Eve in the first opportunity there was for the expression of hatred, and that is Cain and Abel. But it only began with them. It continues today in the hearts of men. Jesus said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And he was referring directly to the fact that they were killing him. But we don't know what we're doing when we're killing one another either. We're helping Satan work out his purpose. His purpose is to destroy. Sometimes, well, he's been doing this for many, many centuries. And some of the numbers of ways that he's been doing it, he deceives us into destroying ourselves by destroying each other. Cain slaying Abel, for instance. War. I'll be getting into that more in a later video. Drugs, both legal pharmaceuticals and illegal, they're destroying us. Genocide against regional occupants with whom someone doesn't want to share their space anymore, or of a neighboring country or countries. They just go to war. Genocide is happening all over the world. This is Satan working through men, killing one another. And then we have nuclear testing on Americans, soldiers, in the 1940s, 50s, Agent Orange in the Vietnam era, and now depleted uranium, contamination of both American soldiers and the entire citizenry of Iraq, at least in those concentrated areas where it's been foisted upon them. Mind control. This is Satan. Now I'm talking about Satan using mind control devices, and sometimes they're government subsidized, and that means a lot more than just approved. But it is also Satan's intent to manipulate man's mind, to be at enmity with one another and with God. It shows up in many different ways, through atheism, agnosticism, those different ways. To manipulate man's mind in such a way to accentuate devastation and despair, which oftentimes brings disrepute to the name of their creator. What do I mean by this? I mean, we have a tornado, or we have a hurricane, and some people are killed and some people are not, or in some more personal instances, an automobile accident where one child gets killed and another one does not, And the mother shakes her fist at God and asks, why? Why me? Why this family? Why does death have to touch us? Bringing disrepute to the name of their Creator. Blaming God for something that Satan has done. Satan has been very effective in getting people's minds to look that way, to see that way, to form that kind of an opinion about the character of God. And they say, well, this must have been God's will. No, it wasn't. It wasn't God's will at all that anyone die. God's will was that first of all, Satan not tempt Eve, and then her share with Adam, and both of them enter into this realm of death and destruction and devastation, which is all caused by Satan. But not actually Satan. Sin. Sin is the issue. Satan's not the issue. That, again, you get back to Satan made me do it. Sin is the issue, and that's what people need to address these days, is sin. Sin in their own lives, first of all. But Satan, some of the ways that he's bringing disrepute to the name of God, a Creator, is by getting people into credit debt. I know this may sound like it's far afield, but let me develop this just a moment. Credit debt, compulsive buying, borrowing against perceived wealth. How much money I'm going to make over the next 10 years. And if I get a raise, well, it'll make it easier. And then they don't get a raise. As a matter of fact, they lose their job. Borrowing against perceived wealth. This is based in greed, kind of, if nothing else, wanting to get ahead without working for it. Credit card debt included. But borrowing loans from the bank, and they're willing to give it to you. They live off of your debt. And we have the collapsing housing bubble, the over expenditures of government. The government is far more in debt in ratio, far, far more in debt in ratio than any American citizen. I don't really want to get into that because it takes us so far away from the spiritual, and that's what I want to point out here. This is the spiritual perspective of what's going on in the world, and Satan, what Satan's purpose is to destroy God's character in the eyes of his creation. That's what it's all about. And some turn away completely from God, becoming atheistic and agnostic or humanistic, tending toward a positive view of evolution and such. And I myself believe in fixity in nature, which evolution has divided into species, with adaptation to current surroundings relative to perceived needs. Those kind of adaptations, the electric light bulb, the industrial revolution, those kind of things are adaptations. You don't see any evolution there. Evolved thought, perhaps. Another one that I'm going to be discussing in my next one is the work from within the church to destroy faith. Because we are saved by grace through faith. And if Satan can destroy our faith in God, then he will destroy also our need for his grace. I'll get to that in my next video. God bless you. Until then.